In our headlines on this Thursday, June 11th, here in South Korea, President Lee Jae-myung is now in Italy, having ended his agenda in Brussels that also included talks with EU leaders regarding North Korea's nuclear weapons and broader trade interests. Meanwhile, for the first time in about a year and a half, South Korea witnessed a drop in employment last month, with the fall acutely felt in the sectors of agriculture and manufacturing. Elsewhere, consumer prices climb over 4% on year in the U.S. in May to post their highest in 3 years, but Donald Trump chooses to make light of the surge. President Lee Jae-myung is now in Italy, the second leg of his Europe tour, having concluded his agenda in Belgium. That also included talks with leaders of the European Union regarding North Korea's nuclear weapons and bilateral trade interests. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
President Lee Jae-myung's last stop in Brussels was the European Union headquarters, marking the first such visit by a Korean president in 8 years. There, he held talks with European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The summit concluded with a 36-point joint statement. One of the strongest messages concerned North Korea and Russia. The two sides strongly condemned what they described as illegal military cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow. They also reaffirmed that North Korea will never be recognized as a nuclear weapon state and expressed concern over its nuclear and ballistic missile programs.
북핵 문제 해결과 한반도 평화 정착을 위해 유럽연합의 변함없는 지지와 건설적인 역할을 당부드렸고, 우리 양측이 함께 협력해 나가기로 뜻을 모았습니다.
Trade was another major focus. Korea and the EU, its third largest trading partner, signed a digital trade agreement. The 40-chapter deal replaces the e-commerce section of their free trade agreement, which took effect in 2011.
It will ensure safe and reliable data flow. It will boost e-commerce, and it will harmonize our consumer protection standards.
And with the EU set to tighten its steel safeguard measures from July, the Blue House says President Lee called for fair treatment for Korean steelmakers, citing Seoul's status as both a strategic and free trade partner. The revised rules will nearly halve tariff-free import quotas across 30 steel product categories, while shipments exceeding those limits will face a 50% tariff. On security, Korea and the EU agreed to launch negotiations on a security information agreement. This would establish a legal framework for sharing and protecting classified information, paving the way for closer industrial and defense cooperation. After wrapping up his 2-day visit to Belgium, President Lee has arrived in Italy, the second leg of his 10-day trip to Europe. His state visit begins with a meeting with Italian President Sergio Mattarella. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
And while we await details of the latest talks between President Lee Jae-myung and his Italian counterpart Giorgia Meloni in Rome on this Thursday, my colleague Oh Soo-young reached out to Italy's top diplomat here in Seoul for her thoughts on the future course of bilateral ties. Do take a listen.
Beyond food, fashion and Ferraris, Korea and Italy are looking to build a partnership focused on the industries and strategic challenges of the future. That's according to Emilia Gatto, Ambassador of Italy to Korea, who says President Lee Jae-myung's visit to Rome is expected to deepen cooperation in areas ranging from space and semiconductors to critical minerals and economic security. The visit comes months after Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni travelled to Seoul in January.
More forward-looking content between our cooperation. In fact, the two leaders spoke a lot about high-end technology sectors cooperation. For example, space may be number one. You know, in space, Korea has very high ambitions, and Italy can be a very good partner.
The two countries have already established cooperation between their space agencies and are also exploring opportunities in biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors and scientific research. The focus on future industries is shaping business ties.
The first Italian-Korean Business Forum was held in September last year, and it was really a success. And we decided, for the reason I was explaining before, that we wanted to focus on the F sector, the future sector, the fourth F sector, biotechnology, industrial automation, robotics, and we had energy transition, digital, transition also, and environment transition. We want to have follow-up, and we will continue to focus on that.
Another growing priority is economic security. As competition intensifies over critical minerals and advanced technologies, both countries are looking to diversify supply chains and secure the resources needed for future industries. Seoul and Rome have discussed combining development partnerships with Africa in joint efforts to secure critical raw minerals.
We want to go together. Why? Because not only because we have the same interest and the same target, and objective, but also because we share the same values.
On that note, gov't says Korea and Italy and the European Union as a whole can be reliable partners for each other, as conflicts and security risks in one region increasingly affect the other. The ambassador also highlighted growing people-to-people ties, from city partnerships, student exchanges, and even karaoke nights, bringing Koreans and Italians together at the embassy in Seoul. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, findings by the Culture Ministry here show the Lee Jae-myung administration's balanced diplomatic approach made quite a bit of foreign media headlines during its first year in office, as did the country's chips and culture. Our correspondent Chung Hye-rim has more.
Research shows that South Korea drew significant attention from foreign media outlets from June 2025 to May 2026. According to the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism, an AI-based analysis of nearly 65,000 articles from 67 media outlets across 19 countries found that political and diplomatic issues accounted for the largest share of coverage of South Korea over the past year. Political and diplomatic issues accounted for the largest share of coverage, followed by business, the economy, culture, and technology. The ministry said many foreign outlets focused on what they described as the Lee administration's, quote, pragmatic approach to diplomacy. The Washington Post said Seoul was attempting a delicate balance, while the Financial Times and The Economist pointed to a more practical and balanced foreign policy approach. For the economy sector, Reuters and Fortune described the country as an important part of global AI and chip supply chains, while also noting the strong performance of South Korea's stock markets. Meanwhile, the country's cultural influence remained one of its strongest assets. For 10 out of the 12 months analyzed, the most positively covered topics were linked to the Korean wave, including K-pop and Korean content. The analysis also found positive assessments of South Korea's democratic resilience, although some reports continued to focus on political polarization, legal investigations involving former officials, and concerns over labor and governance issues. Chung Hye-rim, Arirang News.
In other news now, for the first time in about a year and a half, South Korea witnessed a drop in employment, with the fall acutely felt in the sectors of agriculture and manufacturing. Our Kim Do-yeon tells us why.
Korea's labor market has recorded its first job loss in 17 months, driven by the mounting economic toll of the prolonged war in the Middle East. According to the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Thursday, the total number of employed people fell by 40,000 on year to 29.12 million in May. This marks the first contraction since December 2024. The manufacturing and agricultural sectors absorbed the heaviest blows, shedding a combined 261,000 positions. The government points out that these external geopolitical shocks are finally manifesting in domestic factories.
It seems to take considerable time for rising oil prices to cause supply chain difficulties for companies and for those effects to then impact employment. If the Middle East war had ended in a short period, it might have ended without such an impact, but as it continues, the accumulated effects likely resulted in the negative figures this month.
This corporate hesitation is hitting younger job seekers the hardest. The employment rate for those aged 15 to 29 dropped by 2.4 percentage points, pushing their unemployment rate to 7.2%. The global supply chain pressures are fundamentally reshaping domestic recruitment strategies.
When external factors like the Middle East war arise, companies inevitably delay hiring new people, which directly impacts young people seeking jobs. The shift toward hiring experienced workers has also heavily affected employment for those in their 20s.
Acknowledging the situation, Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul at an economic ministerial meeting on Thursday warned that these sectoral slumps must not spiral into broader job insecurity. In response, the government has eased requirements for employment retention subsidies. To specifically tackle the youth employment slump, Koo pledged to fast-track the Youth New Deal initiatives. This includes launching specialized training programs in the second half of the year to equip over 1,000 young people with skills in advanced sectors such as agentic AI. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Also on the local front, Korea's privacy regulator has fined e-commerce giant Coupang 624.7 billion Korean won, or some $408 million. According to the Personal Information Protection Commission on this Thursday, the fine includes $270 million for the breach of personal information of over 37 million customers and more than $130 million for the unauthorized tracking of online user activity and related violations. This marks the largest fine ever imposed by the regulator on a single company. The National Assembly has initiated proceedings for a parliamentary probe into the ballot paper shortage that disrupted the June 3rd local elections. The ruling Democratic Party and the main opposition People Power Party each submitted their related requests during Thursday's plenary session. While both parties agree on the need for a probe, they stand apart on its scope and method. Accordingly, negotiations are underway, with the Democratic Party targeting a formal vote on the plan of the probe by June 18th. Pundits here say NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang's latest visit to South Korea saw him leaving behind a significant footprint in the country's AI ecosystem. That being said, our business correspondent Park Chun-han revisits the partnerships forged over the past few days.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang's visit to Korea was supposed to be a vacation. But as well as public appearances, a powerful computing alliance has been formed. From semiconductor titans to local startups, NVIDIA is anchoring its global AI expansion directly to Korea. Unlike shared computing that mattered in the last few years, the technology is rapidly moving to third-generation agentic AI, which operates with minimal or no human guidance. Also, the alliance was highlighted through fourth-generation physical AI partnerships, which refer to systems that interact with the real world through robots, autonomous vehicles, and other physical devices. According to Hwang, Korea holds a distinct structural advantage in this next phase.
Countries that are excellent at manufacturing and heavy industry are not good at software. Countries that are very good at software are not good at heavy industry. Korea is great at all of it. This is a unique situation.
While in Korea, NVIDIA solidified massive partnerships across the entire tech spectrum. SK hynix will co-develop next-generation memory for upcoming AI supercomputers. Samsung Electronics will continue cooperation with NVIDIA on its HBM4 and HBM5 memory products, as well as its foundry business, pledging to deliver tangible results moving forward. SK Telecom and Neighbor are launching gigawatt-scale AI factories. Neighbor said it plans to expand its AI infrastructure into Europe and the Middle East beyond the Asia-Pacific region. Hyundai Motor and LG are integrating NVIDIA's platforms to pioneer humanoid robots and smart manufacturing solutions. As global tech giants and leading nations race to advance their AI ecosystems, Korea's unique strengths across both software and manufacturing have made it an indispensable player. However, the challenge moving forward is how to sustain this AI momentum without compromising domestic technological sovereignty. Park Junan, Arirang News.
In the Middle East now, there have been more U.S. strikes against Iran as ordered by President Donald Trump, raising concerns about the fate of the two countries' fragile ceasefire. Our An Sung-jin has the latest.
The United States has launched additional military strikes against Iran after President Donald Trump said U.S. forces would hit the country hard amid stalled negotiations. U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, announced that the launches began around 5 p.m. on Wednesday Eastern Time, describing them as a series of self-defense strikes. According to Fox News, Trump stated that 49 Tomahawk missiles had been fired. The U.S. did not disclose the specific locations or facilities targeted, though the defense secretary had earlier indicated that key Iranian facilities could be among the targets.
Because Iran has a chance to make a good deal, a great deal, to codify what they said they've been willing to do, and they haven't been willing to do it.
Trump had also mentioned that Iranian infrastructure, including power plants and bridges, could be targeted, saying he had the ability to neutralize such facilities if necessary. CENTCOM further stated that the action was in response to what it called Iran's unwarranted and continued aggression. Following the U.S. strikes, Iran's top military command announced the complete closure of the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy allegedly targeting 2 ships in the strait. The IRGC has also reportedly targeted military bases hosting U.S. troops in the region, including bases in Bahrain and Kuwait. The U.S. strikes on Wednesday night follow U.S. retaliatory attacks launched earlier this week after an American Army helicopter was shot down in a drone attack allegedly from Iran, with Trump adding that evidence recovered from the crash site confirmed Iran's involvement. Following those strikes, Trump told reporters at the White House on Wednesday that we're going to hit them hard again today. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian dismissed Trump's threats, describing them as a sign of desperation rather than strength. In a post on social media, the Iranian president said threats against critical infrastructure reflected Washington's frustration and pledged to withstand any pressure through national unity. Trump has maintained that a diplomatic agreement with Iran remained within reach and that the two sides are very close to a deal. However, he claims that Iran needs to sign the final document and accuses Tehran of delaying the process. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And Mr. Trump has also chosen to make light of soaring U.S. consumer prices, which hit over 4% on year in May, the highest in 3 years. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump has defended a recent rise in inflation, arguing that higher prices linked to the conflict with Iran will ease once the war ends. Speaking to reporters on Wednesday, Trump responded to government data showing consumer inflation rose at its fastest pace in 3 years in May. Asked whether the increase could hurt Republicans ahead of November's midterm elections, Trump said he loved the inflation, insisting it is temporary and largely driven by energy costs.
You know what I really love? I love the inflation. Oh, when the war is over, it's coming down. I know you can't. It's going to come down like a rock.
The president revealed that he has approved a plan to secretly move oil tankers to the Strait of Hormuz to help prevent further disruptions to global energy supplies. Trump described the operation as successful and said it was worth the risk. The remarks come as the war with Iran continues to disrupt shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, helping drive up the cost of gasoline, fertilizer, and other goods. Experts also point to the conflict in the Middle East as the main reason for U.S. consumer inflation.
The main story here, headline inflation is up 4.2% on an annual basis. That's the highest we've seen in 3 years since May of 2023. Most of that move is due to energy prices, gasoline prices in particular, from the conflict in the Middle East.
Meanwhile, Wall Street ended lower on Wednesday, with major indexes falling more than 1% as investors weighed rising inflation, weakness in chip stocks, and renewed tensions between Washington and Tehran. Concerns also grew after Trump suggested the U.S. could resume attacks on Iran and warned on social media that Tehran would pay the price if negotiations continue to stall. Also, both Brent crude and U.S. crude futures closed up nearly $2 per barrel on Wednesday, amid concerns that the conflict in the Middle East could escalate further. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Back here in South Korea, curtains have gone up for this year's Busan content market, and our Cho Young-eun was there for a glimpse of the latest screen productions and partnerships making headlines.
From newly unveiled Korean dramas recognized at the Cannes International Series Festival to AI-generated feature films, some of the year's most anticipated productions are on show in the southeastern coastal city of Busan. Among the most anticipated titles is Sacred Jewel, whose cast and creators, including actors An Bo-hyun, Soo-hyun, and Lee Sung-min, appear to meet the audience. The series was invited to the non-competitive section of the 9 Cannes series in April and drew attention again at the Busan content market ahead of its release.
It was exciting and truly an honor to share the film with international audiences. Presenting it in Busan again before its official release is especially meaningful, and I'm very grateful.
Content created with artificial intelligence is also taking center stage at this year's market. Genfluencer, directed by Hyun Hae-ri, has attracted attention as the first Cannes series selected feature-length film with roughly half of its footage generated using AI. Starring actress Bae Yoon-kyung, the film showcases the potential of AI in content creation and storytelling.
In the past, directors often had to give up certain scenes because of budget constraints. With generative AI, I was able to create the scenes I envisioned without those limitations. I believe Genfluencers will be an experiment unlike anything seen before.
Beyond screenings and showcases, the market is facilitating business opportunities across broadcasting, streaming, and creator media sectors. Marking its largest edition yet, BCM 2026 has brought over around 700 companies from 55 countries for international networking. One of the most closely watched developments is the first official participation of the China Pavilion, signaling the potential for broader cultural and content industry exchanges. Emerging markets such as Mongolia and Romania took part in the event, while broadcasters and media companies including Arirang TV also met with content producers and distributors.
The basic role of the market is to provide a preview of works that will be released later in the year. Many projects introduced here have become major hits. Looking ahead to our 30th anniversary, we hope to grow into a marketplace attracting participants from around 100 countries and some 10,000 buyers and sellers.
Running through Friday in Busan, BCM 2026 is celebrating 2 decades since its launch in 2007 and reaffirming its status as one of Asia's premier content trading platforms. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News, Busan.
Clouds cover and showers kept temperatures cooler today. Scattered showers will continue through this evening across inland areas. Tomorrow, central and northern inland areas, as well as mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province, will see light showers of 5 to 10 millimeters. Meanwhile, South Korea opens its World Cup group stage tomorrow. The game kicks off at 11 a.m. Korea time, and large crowds are expected at fan park events across the country. Skies stay mostly sunny, so weather conditions should not disrupt outdoor activities. Temperatures will rise from tomorrow, reaching around 30 degrees Celsius by Saturday, bringing back the summer-like heat. Tomorrow's Seoul will start the day at 16 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at 13 degrees, Daejeon at 15 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 28 degrees, Daegu at 30 degrees, Gwangju at 29 degrees. Looking ahead to Sunday, rain moves to Jeju Island. Now here's a look at the weather around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next, our daily panel session, during which we address the President's Europe tour again. Thank you for now.